My name is Victoria Chen, and I'm 31 years old. 9 months ago, a single text message from my mother shattered the foundation of everything I believed about family loyalty. The message was brief, cold, and devastating. Victoria, don't come to dinner tonight. Natalie doesn't feel comfortable around you. Natalie, my brother Ryan's girlfriend of exactly 6 weeks, a woman I'd met precisely 3 times, who somehow now possessed veto power over my presence at my own family's dinner table. This wasn't simply about missing one family meal. It marked the beginning of a calculated campaign to systematically erase me from my own family's life. Over the following months, I watched in stunned disbelief as my parents consistently chose this complete stranger over their own daughter. They canceled my birthday celebration, excluded me from major holidays, and even began suggesting that I wasn't family-oriented enough to deserve inclusion in their estate planning. The woman orchestrating this entire scheme had been dating my brother for less than 2 months when the exclusions began. What my family didn't realize, what Natalie certainly couldn't have known, was that 4 years earlier, during a comprehensive estate planning meeting, my parents had signed a legally binding document that would eventually become their undoing. That forgotten contract contained an equal treatment clause, specifically designed to prevent exactly the kind of discriminatory disinheritance they were now contemplating. The truth finally exploded at my promotion celebration last month, an event intended to honor my career milestone, which my family instead transformed into a platform for public humiliation in front of 30 of my professional colleagues. It was there, surrounded by witnesses and cameras, that I finally revealed what that forgotten document contained and exercised the legal rights it granted me. If this story resonates with your own experiences, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. This is my story of fighting back and winning. Section 1. The first cut, when family becomes. Conditional 600 words. It was a crisp Thursday evening in March when my world quietly shifted on its axis. I stood in my kitchen, carefully arranging layers of homemade tiramisu in my mother's favorite crystal dish. The dessert had taken me 3 hours to perfect. Ladyfingers soaked in espresso, mascarpone whipped to silky perfection, each layer dusted with imported cocoa. Mom had specifically requested it for our weekly family dinner, a tradition we'd maintained religiously for over a decade. My phone buzzed against the marble countertop. The message from my mother appeared innocent enough at first glance, but as I read the words, my blood turned to ice. Victoria, please don't come tonight. Natalie feels you judge her, and we want to keep peace in the family. We'll catch up another time. I read it again, then a third time, certain I was misunderstanding something fundamental about the situation. Natalie Morrison, my brother Ryan's girlfriend of exactly 6 weeks, a woman I had encountered precisely 3 times in my entire life. During each meeting, I had made every conceivable effort to welcome her into our traditionally tight-knit family circle. The first encounter occurred at our customary Sunday brunch, where Natalie arrived wearing a designer ensemble that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. She immediately launched into elaborate monologues about her social media influence and lifestyle brand, speaking with the kind of confidence that suggested she expected everyone to be thoroughly impressed. I had smiled encouragingly, asked thoughtful questions about her background and aspirations, and even followed her Instagram account, which boasted approximately 1,900 followers and featured an endless stream of carefully curated selfies. Our second meeting took place at Ryan's birthday celebration 3 weeks later. Natalie spent the entire evening strategically positioning herself between my parents, calling my father Dad and referring to my mother as the mom she always dreamed of having. Her behavior struck me as oddly performative, but I attributed it to nervousness about integrating into a new family dynamic. I certainly never imagined that she felt uncomfortable around me, or that I had somehow made her feel unwelcome in our home. I immediately called my mother, desperate for clarification. "What do you mean Natalie doesn't feel comfortable around me?" I asked, genuinely bewildered. What exactly did I do wrong? My mother's response was both vague and deeply troubling. "Honey, she says you look at her strangely, and that you make her feel unwelcome with all your success talk." Success talk? The accusation was completely baffling. Natalie had specifically asked about my career as an environmental engineer, and I had simply answered her questions honestly and thoroughly. "Mom," she asked about my job, and I responded. I protested. How was that making her uncomfortable? My mother's reply revealed a disturbing shift in her perspective that I hadn't anticipated. "Well, maybe you should tone it down a bit. Not everyone has your advantages, Victoria." The irony of this statement was almost laughable. While Ryan had dropped out of 4 different college programs using my parents' financial support, I had worked 2 jobs simultaneously to put myself through engineering school, while he continued living rent-free in their renovated guest house at 28 years old. I had been completely financially independent since graduating at 22. "Mom, this is our family dinner," I said, struggling to keep the desperation from creeping into my voice. "I'm part of this family." Her response would echo in my mind for months to come. "Natalie is going to be family too, Victoria. Ryan is very serious about her." 6 weeks. They had known each other for 6 weeks. Yet somehow this virtual stranger had acquired the authority to exclude me from the dinner table where I had shared thousands of meals throughout my life. I set down the tiramisu, its perfect layers now seeming utterly meaningless, and stared out at the city lights beginning to twinkle in the distance. Section 2. The Golden Child and the Forgotten Daughter. 600 words. To understand how Natalie gained such extraordinary influence within my family so rapidly, it's essential to examine the deeply dysfunctional dynamics that had shaped our household for decades. Growing up, I was consistently positioned as the daughter destined to follow in our parents' prestigious footsteps. My father, Dr. Michael Chen, was a highly respected cardiovascular surgeon, while my mother, Linda, served as the chief administrator at the same renowned medical facility. From the time I was 5 years old, they would proudly introduce me to their colleagues and friends as our future doctor, as if my career trajectory had been predetermined by their expectations rather than my own interests and aptitudes. However, I had always been drawn to environmental engineering rather than medicine. I was fascinated by the challenge of creating sustainable systems that could protect our planet's future, rather than operating rooms where lives hung in the balance. When I finally made the decision to pursue environmental engineering instead of medicine, my parents reacted as if I had chosen to waste my life completely. "Such a tragic waste of your intelligence," my father would comment at every family gathering, even after I graduated summa cum laude from one of the most competitive engineering programs in the nation. Meanwhile, Ryan seemed incapable of doing anything wrong in their eyes, regardless of how many times he failed or disappointed them. When he dropped out of pre-medical studies, my father rationalized it as finding his true calling. When he failed out of business school after 1 semester, my mother explained that he was too creative for traditional educational structures. When he abandoned his 3rd attempt at college and moved back into their house at 26 with no job prospects and no concrete plans, they didn't just welcome him home. They renovated their entire guest house specifically to provide him with independence and motivation, while Ryan slept until noon every day and spent his afternoons playing video games or scrolling through social media. I was quietly and relentlessly building a successful career from absolutely nothing. This meant working unpaid internships that barely covered my transportation costs, accepting entry-level positions where I was frequently the only woman in the room, and routinely putting in 70-hour work weeks on complex environmental projects. None of my family members ever inquired about these experiences or showed genuine interest in my professional growth, because environmental engineering wasn't real medicine in their estimation. By the time I reached 29, I had achieved the position of senior environmental engineer at my firm, making me the youngest person in the company's history to reach that level of responsibility. My projects included designing sustainable water treatment systems for underserved communities and developing innovative air purification technologies for urban environments. My parents' response to this significant milestone was a perfunctory, "That's nice, dear. Did you hear that Ryan got an interview at that consulting firm?" An interview that Ryan never bothered to attend, but which somehow received more attention and enthusiasm than my actual achievements. The inequality in their treatment became even more apparent when I purchased my condominium using money I had saved entirely through my own efforts over 5 years. Instead of celebrating this major life accomplishment, my parents gave Ryan a brand new luxury sedan for motivation to help him get back on his feet professionally. Every achievement of mine was met with polite disinterest, while every failure or setback of Ryan's was cushioned with elaborate excuses and immediate financial support. When Natalie appeared and immediately began praising their parenting skills, calling them inspirational, and describing our family as absolutely perfect, my parents didn't simply welcome her. They began treating her like the family-oriented daughter they had always wanted. Natalie had identified exactly what my parents craved to hear and delivered it with surgical precision, positioning herself as the warm, family-centered person they desired while simultaneously casting me as the cold, career-obsessed daughter who had chosen professional success over meaningful relationships. Section 3. The Master Manipulator's Playbook, 600 words. Natalie Morrison entered our family's orbit with the calculated precision of someone who had studied our dynamics extensively and knew exactly which emotional vulnerabilities to exploit. Ryan had met her at a professional networking event that he had actually attended, which was miraculous in itself, considering his usual pattern of avoiding any form of professional obligation. Within 1 week of their first date, Natalie was positioned at our family dinner table, batting her eyelashes at my father and enthusiastically offering to help my mother in the kitchen as if she had been part of our family for years. "She's everything we could have hoped Ryan would find," my mother gushed to me after that initial dinner. "She's so family-oriented and nurturing, unlike some people who prioritize their careers above everything else." The criticism wasn't subtle, and it certainly wasn't accidental. Natalie had somehow managed to position herself as the ideal family member, while simultaneously casting me as the selfish, career-obsessed daughter who didn't appreciate what truly mattered in life. Natalie's manipulation strategy was remarkably sophisticated and psychologically calculated. She never attacked me directly, or said anything that could be construed as obviously hostile or confrontational. Instead, she employed a technique of subtle undermining that made her appear supportive while actually highlighting my supposed deficiencies as a family member. She would make seemingly innocent comments like, "Victoria is so fortunate to be so independent and self-sufficient. I could never be away from family as much as she is." Or my personal favorite, "It must be liberating to only worry about environmental projects instead of real human relationships and emotional connections." My parents absorbed these comments like they were receiving profound wisdom, nodding along as Natalie painted herself as the warm, family-centered person they had always wanted in their lives. Within 1 month of dating Ryan, Natalie had obtained her own key to my parents' house. Within 2 months, she was actively helping my mother redecorate the main living areas, strategically removing family photographs that included me and replacing them with pictures of herself and Ryan looking blissfully happy together at various romantic locations. "We need to make Natalie feel more included and welcome in our home," my mother explained when I inquired about my missing college graduation photo that had been prominently displayed for over 6 years. The irony was staggering. They were making the newcomer feel included by systematically excluding the daughter who had actually grown up in that house and created those memories. I began, maintaining a mental catalog of red flags that seemed glaringly obvious to me but remained completely invisible to my parents. Natalie had somehow learned my parents' approximate net worth within the first few weeks of dating Ryan. She had developed a sudden and intense fascination with their investment, properties and real estate holdings. She consistently steered family conversations toward topics of inheritance, family legacy, and long-term financial planning. When I attempted to point out these concerning patterns to my parents, I was immediately cast as the villain, who was being unreasonably suspicious and jealous of Ryan's newfound happiness. The systematic exclusion from family events began gradually and appeared almost reasonable at first glance. "Oh, Victoria, we moved dinner to 5 o'clock, but you're probably working late on that water treatment project anyway." Then the exclusions became more frequent and increasingly transparent. "We're keeping Easter intimate this year, just Ryan and Natalie, over the course of 8 months." I was methodically uninvited from Easter dinner, Mother's Day brunch, multiple Sunday dinners, the 4th of July barbecue, my father's retirement party planning meetings, my mother's birthday celebration, and our traditional family Labor Day weekend retreat. The excuses evolved from Natalie's anxiety and comfort level to keeping the peace in the family, until finally, they stopped providing any explanations altogether and simply informed me that I wasn't included in various family activities. Natalie had successfully positioned herself as the new center of our family's social universe, while rendering me completely invisible and irrelevant. Section 4. Professional Triumph Meets Personal Sabotage, 600 words. While my family was systematically erasing me from their personal lives, my professional career was reaching unprecedented heights that would define my entire future in environmental engineering. 3 months into what I now refer to as the Natalie era, I received a promotion to senior environmental engineer, making me responsible for overseeing sustainable infrastructure projects across 3 major metropolitan areas. 6 months later, I was selected to lead the complete redesign of the city's water treatment and purification systems, a $60 million project that would impact over 2 million residents and establish new standards for environmental sustainability nationwide. The promotion to lead environmental systems director was virtually guaranteed, and my supervisor, Dr. Rebecca Martinez, had been meticulously preparing me for this leadership role for over 18 months. "Victoria, you represent the future of environmental engineering," Dr. Martinez had affirmed during my most recent performance review. "Your innovative approaches to sustainable infrastructure will reshape how cities think about environmental responsibility." This promotion announcement deserves a proper celebration with industry leaders present. The formal celebration would be held at an elegant venue with my professional colleagues, environmental scientists, city planners, and municipal leaders in attendance. Exactly the kind of high-profile event where having supportive family members present would significantly enhance the moment and demonstrate the personal foundation behind professional success. It was precisely at this crucial juncture that Natalie began her calculated infiltration of my professional world with the same strategic precision she had used to manipulate my family relationships. She started by locating my company's LinkedIn page and systematically following every one of my colleagues, from junior engineers to senior partners. Soon after, she began commenting on articles featuring our environmental projects with messages like, "So fascinating. Ryan's family is incredibly accomplished in sustainable engineering." Notice that she consistently referred to it as Ryan's family, not mine, even though I was the one actually working in the field and achieving these milestones. The situation escalated dramatically when my colleague Jennifer, a sharp and observant environmental scientist, casually mentioned during a project meeting, "Your brother's girlfriend seems quite interested in environmental engineering, Victoria." She reached out about potential collaborations for her social media content and lifestyle brand. Collaborations. Natalie, with her 2,800 followers and absolutely zero connection to environmental science or engineering, was brazenly attempting to position herself as adjacent to my professional success and leverage my hard-earned reputation for her own superficial social media gain. 2 weeks before the formal announcement of my promotion, Natalie crossed a line that could have seriously damaged my career and professional relationships. She sent a direct message to Dr. Martinez expressing concerns about Victoria's work-life balance and how her obsession with career advancement is negatively affecting the people who love her most. The message was crafted to sound like genuine concern from a caring family member, but it was actually a calculated attempt to undermine my professional credibility at the most critical moment of my career. Fortunately, Dr. Martinez forwarded the message to me immediately. Her accompanying note reading, "Victoria, I assume this situation is complicated, but I wanted you to be aware. Consider her message deleted, and perhaps don't invite her to your promotion celebration." But I knew, with absolute certainty, that I would invite my entire family, including Natalie, because this promotion party wouldn't simply be a celebration of my professional achievement. It would serve as the perfect stage where I would finally, definitively set everything right. I meticulously scheduled the event for the following Friday evening at the Metropolitan Club, one of the city's most prestigious venues. 35 guests from my professional world would attend, including environmental scientists, city officials, and industry leaders, along with 4 people from my personal life who remained completely unaware of the dramatic confrontation that was about to unfold. The promotion party was destined to change everything permanently. My family just didn't know what was coming. Section 5. The Promotion Party Showdown. 600 words. The evening of my promotion celebration, I stood in my office overlooking the city skyline, watching the lights begin to twinkle as the sun disappeared behind the buildings. The nameplate on my desk would soon read, Lead Environmental Systems Director, the youngest person in the firm's history to achieve this position. This moment should have filled me with pure, unadulterated joy. Instead, I felt the familiar ache of wondering whether my parents would finally acknowledge my achievements or continue to dismiss them as they had for years. The Metropolitan Club looked absolutely magnificent. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking views of the city. Soft jazz music created an elegant atmosphere, and champagne flowed freely among the distinguished guests. I had chosen every detail carefully, sophisticated but not ostentatious, professional yet warm. The kind of event that celebrated success without appearing boastful or self-aggrandizing. My professional colleagues arrived first, filling the space with genuine congratulations and meaningful conversations about environmental sustainability. Dr. Martinez, my mentor and supervisor, mingled with city council members who had supported our water treatment initiative. Senior partners from environmental consulting firms discussed future collaborations. Each congratulation felt authentic and well-deserved, earned through years of dedicated work and innovative thinking. Then I received the inevitable text from my mother. Running late. Natalie needed to stop somewhere important. Of course she did. They arrived 45 minutes after the scheduled start time, missing the cocktail hour entirely, and making a dramatic entrance that drew attention from every conversation in the room. My father wore casual golf attire. He hadn't bothered to dress appropriately for his daughter's career milestone. My mother clutched Natalie's arm as if she were the guest of honor rather than me. Ryan trailed behind them, already absorbed in his phone, and completely disengaged from the celebration. And Natalie, she wore white. Not cream, not ivory, but ceremony white that practically glowed under the venue's elegant lighting. At my promotion party, she had dressed like a bride attending her own wedding, ensuring that she would be the visual center of attention in every photograph taken that evening. Victoria, my mother called out too loudly, her voice cutting through the sophisticated conversations. Sorry we're late. Natalie wanted to look absolutely perfect for your little work event. Little work event. I had just been promoted to lead a $60 million environmental infrastructure project, and my mother dismissed it as a little work event. As I circulated among my guests, I noticed Natalie positioning her phone on tables throughout the venue, angling the camera toward the podium area where I would be speaking. Behind-the-scenes content for my followers, she announced to anyone within earshot. They absolutely love exclusive access to events like this. She was already crafting her social media narrative, positioning herself as an insider at an important industry celebration. Dr. Martinez tapped her champagne glass, calling for attention. Ladies and gentlemen, let's celebrate our new lead environmental systems director. As I walked toward the podium, I caught sight of someone I hadn't expected to see. James Morrison, my parents' estate planning attorney, sat quietly at a back table with a leather briefcase beside his chair, looking like any other distinguished professional guest. My parents didn't notice him. They had met him exactly once, 4 years ago, during their comprehensive estate planning session. They certainly wouldn't recognize him in a room full of environmental engineers and city officials. What they didn't know was that briefcase contained copies of legal documents they had completely forgotten existed, documents bearing their signatures, documents with very specific clauses about equal treatment of beneficiaries and protection against discriminatory disinheritance. I had invited James as my personal guest, which was perfectly legal and appropriate. If he happened to have relevant legal paperwork with him, well, that was simply fortunate timing. As I reached the podium and looked out at the assembled crowd, my professional colleagues who respected my achievements, and my family who had spent months trying to diminish them, I knew that the next few minutes would change everything forever. Outro, CTA, 250 words. Looking back on that transformative evening, I realized that Natalie's theatrical wine-throwing performance was actually an unexpected gift. Without her need for dramatic attention and the subsequent family meltdown in front of 30 professional witnesses, I might have endured years of continued quiet exclusion and gradual erasure from my own family's life. Instead, her compulsion for public manipulation forced everything into harsh, undeniable light, giving me the perfect opportunity to exercise the legal rights I had discovered. The most crucial lesson from this experience isn't about revenge or winning some kind of family competition. It's about the vital importance of preparation, documentation, and understanding your legal protections before you need them. Document every instance of exclusion and discrimination. Understand your rights under any legal agreements you've signed. Have backup plans ready before family relationships become toxic. Most importantly, recognize that authentic family is defined by mutual respect and genuine support, not by blood relations or obligation. Today, I'm thriving as lead environmental systems director, developing sustainable infrastructure that will benefit millions of people. My projects have won multiple industry awards that my parents will never see me receive. I spend holidays with people who genuinely celebrate my presence and achievements. Most importantly, I sleep peacefully every night, knowing I stood up for myself when it mattered most. If this story resonates with your experiences, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs permission to demand respect. Comment below with your own boundary-setting experiences. When did you decide your dignity wasn't negotiable? Your stories help others find their courage. Remember, respect is non-negotiable, especially from those who claim to love you.